Hello, my name is Sakari. I think I'm going to try and document my process of becoming a software developer or a game developer or whatever you want to call it. I guess a game developer is the most accurate description, and what I went through, all the issues and the various breakthroughs that gave me the most benefit and everything. So this is my first video. I haven't practiced being in front of the camera or haven't written anything down. This is just the first draft, or the second draft. I messed up my words first. So I've been a gamer all my life. I love games. Not all games, but I've always loved playing games. Often alone, but also with my friends. And one thing that I've always had, which was like my pet peeve, was that I seemed to be very perceptive of issues, small, minute issues of how the games function, that it seemed like most people don't notice. Especially, for example, in first-person shooters, I noticed that there was often issues with the mouse input. There would either be negative acceleration or positive acceleration, or the speed of the mouse sensitivity in-game would be tied to the in-game frame rate, or all kinds of weird issues like that, and I would often complain about them. And because of this, I got to be a part of a few mod scenes. For example, The Specialists back in, what was this, 2002, 2003. It was a pretty popular multiplayer modification for Half-Life, which took a lot of influence from movies like Face Off and The Matrix, and I'm not sure what else, but it was really cool. You could do like time freezing and time slowdowns in multiplayer games, and you could do flips and slides on the floor and all kinds of stuff like that. It was really fun. I made a bunch of videos about it as well. And I got to be a part of the beta team and do some testing and met a lot of really cool people. And then I also played a lot of Quake 3 Challenge Pro Mode Arena, and I got to be a part of the testing team there as well. Also met a lot of cool people. And and all through this time, I had a dream of being a game developer myself. But for some reason I thought that I was too dumb, that I didn't understand. I hadn't practiced programming back then. I had maybe seen some lines of code and they made no sense to me. So I just had the idea that I don't have what it takes to be a game creator. And then it was in like 2013, 14, I had this idea for a game, which is basically a physics-based simple drone game where you have a drone that you can press a button and you accelerate up, or you can move your mouse and keyboard to rotate on all axes. And I wanted to make that. So I paid a freelancer, I think 80 euros, to make me a prototype of this game. And he made it in just maybe a couple of days, and it worked like I imagined it to work. And I actually, because I had sort of played it in my mind so much, that once I got it, I could fly it right away. It's actually pretty challenging to fly, because you have to constantly balance yourself, because you can only accelerate up, and then you have to rotate yourself. If you want to go sideways, you have to rotate to the side and then accelerate up. So you have to maintain balance all the time and move with the up acceleration. So anyways, I got it to work, and it was for Unreal Engine, and I created some really simple prototype maps in Unreal Engine. But then, because I was a poor student and I didn't have any money to pay more for the freelancers, so the prototype was that. And then a year or two went by, and a friend of mine on Facebook asked me, so have you been working on the game anymore? And I was like, no, I couldn't. I didn't know how to do it myself, and I didn't have money to pay the freelancer. So he was like, oh, I've been working on Unity quite a bit, and I could try and make it for you. If like the same prototype, I can try if I can make it. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. I would love to see you try and make that. And within an hour, he had a working prototype. And I was like, okay, how is this possible? How can he make the game that I've been thinking about in an hour? And he showed me the code. It was literally like 5 lines of code. And I understood the code. I was studying in a university for software development, so I understood the code. It was really simple. And that's the point where it sort of, a light went on in my head, and I was like, oh, okay, it's not actually difficult. It's really simple to do some things. For example, physics-based movement. As long as the physics engine is already there, and in Unity and Unreal Engine, the physics engine is already there. You don't have to create it. You just have to give commands to the physics engine for the character to move as you want it to. So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe I'll start to learn Unity as well. And so I did, and I spent I think 6 months in a complete flow state, maybe 10 hours a day of programming in Unity. I would try to create the games that I enjoy myself, create the simple prototypes of those games. So for example, my idea of the flying drone, which was basically the battlefield helicopter controls. So basically you have thrust up, and then you can rotate on all axes, and that's how you control the craft. I made some simple enemies and simple maps in Unity and stuff like this. And then I made some prototypes of Quake with Quake movement mechanics. I actually used the Quake 1 source code, which is free open source source code. So I used that to make the Quake movement mechanics, where you can rotate in the air, same as when CS surfing, or you can use it in some characters currently in the Quake Champions, or that was the mechanics in Quake 3 CPMA that I played. And so I made those, and I learned a lot. For example, the initial video, so basically how you learn in Unity is you find videos of people doing something that is as close as possible to what you want to do, and then just take that information and use that. So I made the physics-based drone flying game based on a really good tutorial of someone making a hover car, basically a simple car model that had a raycast pointing down from each wheel that was detecting the ground within like 50 centimeters, and if it detected the ground, it would push up on that point on the car. So that was a simple way of making the car hover above the ground. So if it moved forward and there was a slope, it would start pushing the nose up, and it would move like that. So I used that code, which was just the force to push an object up. So I could do that on my craft, and then I found a way to use @torque in Unity to apply torque forces on the object so I can make it rotate. And I just applied those to keyboard and mouse, and I learned to move the craft like that. And like that, it was just days and days of being in a flow state where I would program all the way to the night, and then I would go to sleep being excited that, okay, I have this idea that I want to try. When I wake up, I'm going to try it. And then I would go to sleep, I would wake up and jump up from the bed, go open my computer and try to program the thing that I thought of. And often it would go that I would plan the thing for a long time, try to make it, I would hit a wall, I couldn't understand why it didn't work. I would try and try and try, I would get frustrated, I would go out, do something outside, then I would get the idea and I would, okay, yeah, I think that's how it's going to work. And I would go back and try it again. And every time it worked, it felt like magic because I had been thinking about it in my head for so long, trying different things, and then I figured, yes, I think that is the way it needs to be done. And I tried and it works. So you build up confidence like that because you think about it and then you try it, and if it works, it's like a confirmation that you were right, and you keep doing that. When it doesn't work, often there's confusion and you're like, how come it doesn't work? I thought it was going to work. And then you find out the reason why it didn't work, and that also helps you because you, of course, you have to fail to understand what works and what doesn't. And that's basically how I continued for at least 6 months, I think. Then I took some time off, I went back to school and stuff like that, but I gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of confidence in my skills in Unity because there were so many points where I either thought about something in my head for a long time and then finally tried it, procrastination stuff, but finally once I tried it and it did work like I thought it would, that made me more confident. And whenever there was an issue that I struggled for a long time, I always then found out what the issue was, and then that also gave me confidence. So basically, slowly my confidence kept going up higher and higher, and I knew that I guess considered myself a game developer because I knew I could do stuff. Of course, my skills within the scope of game development were pretty narrow, basically just first person character control mechanics and some simple enemy mechanics and stuff like that. So obviously I couldn't make a full-fledged game myself, but I felt like I could create something that was of value to people. So with that confidence, I was able to get some internships, and in VR development, that's another thing that I then got excited about in school. We had a really advanced virtual reality lab with lots of VR equipment and stuff like that, and so I got really into those, and I learned a lot there. And the concept of having 6 degrees of freedom controllers and headset was a perfect fit for example, my flight mechanics. So I made a system where you can fly a helicopter in VR with my physics-based controls, and that actually is a really good fit because the current standard of VR equipment is basically a corded, or back then was a corded headset to the computer. So a seated experience is ideal because you can't really move that freely with a cable. So sitting on a chair and using your hands to control the machine was really, really well suited. And then I got a job at the university doing XR development, and now I'm sort of trying to, I will try to start documenting what I know and sort of fine-tune it and hopefully help people create what they want to create. So this was my first video. Hopefully there was gonna be more.